Google.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDCRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, we've decided a long time ago that we just throw professionalism out the window and we just kind of vibe. This podcast is all vibes, Corey.
We were, as of 35 seconds ago, making pretty dirty Christmas jokes, and now here we are.
There's one way to put it.
That is one way to put it. Let's get to the topic at hand here, huh? Girls basketball on the air tonight, non-conference girls hoops, girls buckets, the girls cagers, whatever. What's your fun word about basketball on the air tonight? Who you got? Where are you going?
Well, we got some hooping going on up in Park Rapids area. Park Rapids area hosting Wadena Deer Creek in girls basketball, a rematch of the opening round of the Section 8AA playoffs from a year ago, where Park Rapids area was able to get the win over Wadena Deer Creek Advance and the Wolverines season. Well, the Highway 71 rivalry is renewed here again as the 3-0 Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines are taking on the 1-3 Park Rapids area Panthers. For Park Rapids area, they've had some losses to Frazee, Barnesville, New York Mills, whereas they had a 73-54 victory over Staples Motley as their win. Of course, now they're in the Heart of Lakes for Park Rapids area. They are 1-2 in the HOL conference. They're 0-2 in Section 8AA play, 0-2 on the road, 1-1 on their home floor, looking to make it 2-1 against the Wolverines tonight. And Wadena Deer Creek, of course, 2-0 at home, 1-0 on the road. They're 2-0 in the Park Region Conference to get things started off. This is the first section game for Wadena Deer Creek this season. It'll be my first look at this team for Wadena Deer Creek as well. And it'll just be a good vibe. Obviously, I had a chance to talk with Coach Cressip in the Wolverines Weekly Coaches Show that we do every Saturday on KWAD and wherever you get your podcasts. Just talked about the first couple wins of the season, what they expect of the team and some certain things. And finally just get to see that on the court will be a fun one tonight up in Park Rapids. Obviously, it's a good gym there. Gets going, gets loud when it should be I'm expecting a nice little game tonight. Obviously, first chance to see Park Rapids area as well. And just really get a look at some girls basketball tonight. You can listen, of course, on 105.9 FM. 105.9 FM. Geez, I can't talk today. Superstation K106, WDCRadio.com, or the Superstation K106 mobile app. That's where you can listen worldwide. Corey, for a guy whose job it is to talk all day, I'm sure real bad at it today.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. It also happens to the worst of us. I'm not exactly where you fall on the spectrum.
Somewhere in the middle. Good enough to where it's like, well, we can't get rid of him, but never quite good enough to be
Yeah, no, that was perfect. That was actually perfect execution of what we're talking about.
Our GM's in the building today. He's not going to walk in and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. But it's kind of, it's.
Can't rule it out with that guy either, by the way. So the fact that we make it every single day, it's pretty good.
Hey, I'll take it. Look, the fact that I go into any job I've ever worked at in my entire life and nobody's looked at me and went, what are you
Yeah. Have you been fired?
Never been fired. I've never been laid off. I've never had anybody tell me that they need me to stop working for them.
Yeah, me either. I've been transferred from one department to another.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it wasn't because of me.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it was just because of the way that department was going. You know what I mean? And how I always took it was, you're good enough to keep around. And even though this is going away, we want to keep you around in another.
The Titanic is sinking, but here, we'll give you one of the lifeboats.
Yes. And we'll let you, pull the string on the Evinrude to keep that lifeboat moving, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Exactly. I've never been fired. I don't know what that feeling would be like. It depends too. Are you getting fired for a reason, a justifiable reason? Did you steal from the company? Did you do something vulgar? Did you, whatever? There's legit reasons to be fired, but or is it you just didn't quite get along with the boss, or your company goes in a different direction, or
don't you think that either way it's not a good feeling? Like either the company's going a different direction and
they basically tell you they don't think you're any good.
That feels bad, or you were stealing from the company, like you said, and they caught you. That doesn't feel good either.
No, because the next time you get a job, they're like, "Why were you fired from your last job?" It's like, well, at the time.
I mean, I've never done anything like brutally awful or illegal, but like, you ever been pulled over for speeding before?
Pulled over for something much worse.
Yeah, but you weren't doing anything. Have you been pulled over for doing something illegal? And you're like, this stinks.
Yeah, I guess. But
the reason I was going as fast as I was probably is I wasn't paying attention, which makes me feel stupid, or I was paying attention and I thought I could get away with it here.
What if third answer? I'm the king of the highway. How about that? Does that work?
Yeah, but then you're going to be indignant. You know what I mean? You can't pull me over. You can't give me a ticket for that.
You ever see
king of the highway?
You ever see the it's like a person, cuts in front of me on the interstate. It's okay. That person's maybe going through a bad day. Maybe they just made a mistake. Maybe they are like in a hurry. Maybe there's an emergency, and it just says, "As other car, I'm the king of the highway." And that's how I imagine most. Like, every time I try to be empathetic towards other people on the road, and then I just assume it's somebody who's just like, "Oh, look at me." I'm like,
I assume every single time that if I see somebody pulled over in the same fashion that we were pulled over the other night, that those people were really drunk. And now, you know what? There's probably an assumption on my part that I need to get rid of. I need to quit being so judgmental on other people. Maybe, just maybe, those people were being pulled over wrongfully for stealing a vehicle.
I mean, you can't rule it out.
What do you think those people were thinking of us as they drove by?
Probably, I mean, it's got to be
that. They were drinking. Are there drugs in that vehicle? What were they doing? What's going on? Why are they talking to that guy outside the vehicle? Now we know that sometimes they just need to get stories straight and nothing's actually wrong.
Right.
I need to not be so judgmental, CJ.
But also, they totally thought we stole that car. So
we didn't. But this is a glass house situation. You know what I mean? I've now been in that glass house and realized I've thrown a stone too many.
You were in the glass house and you're like, "Why is my window broken? Oh wait, that was me." That thing. Anyway, all of this to say, it's going to be a nice little game tonight on the Superstation K106. A little girls basketball action. Highway 71 rivalry going on. I always
at 7:30 tonight.
Yes, 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off. I always think, Corey, and the Wadena, Deer Creek, Park Rapids area is just the one that comes to top of mind. But there's other rivalries across central Minnesota that could apply to this. I always feel like we should sponsor a rivalry. You know what I mean? Like, we should facilitate a traveling trophy.
We've talked about that. Yes. Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I mean, wouldn't it be great? Just using Wadena, Deer Creek, Park Rapids area as an example, because I know they do it for hockey.
Correct.
But you just do maybe it's not like a traveling trophy because there's multiple sports and how do you keep that together? But maybe it's hey, throughout the year, you guys play each other a lot. And at the end of the year, we're going to tally up who won in each of the head-to-heads, and whoever wins the most at the end of the year gets to keep this trophy and gets bragging rights and gets a little something
radio.
Yeah. Gets the honor of being on the Morning Sports Desk podcast. Lucky them.
A bust of Kyle Gilsine to hang up to set in their trophy case.
You get a big canvas of Corey Tackman holding the kangaroo above your mantle.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I'm in on that.
Yeah.
I'm on that part of it.
I think we could get something going. If you're an AD listening, or if you're a coach or a parent or a student, I don't know, get this going. We will facilitate it. Just let us know that you're interested.
Well, we had another one. I had Sabika Pine River Bacchus the other night. That is another, they play each other and everything all the time, and they're not conference opponents.
Right. Exactly.
So another good regional rivalry. That would be fun. You know where it might be fun? We're on-air production meeting. Time out from the Morning Sports Desk. On-air production meeting really quick.
Yeah.
An amateur baseball game.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
What are the rivalries that are the most heated during the amateur baseball season?
I could think of a couple. Maybe.
I'm just saying. One game of summer.
One game of summer. This is the battle of whatever.
Yeah.
You get the trophy. Yeah. New York Mills and Bluffton. Here we go. All the marbles.
For a can of black paint, because whoever wins that game probably pitched the better on the outside of the zone.
Mm-hmm.
The black paint game.
Yeah, I think we could make that work.
All right. Time in. Production meeting over.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ. That's Corey. Corey, why don't we go over the Pro Football Challenge standings quick? This timeout. We're back to the on-air production meeting. I gotta step out for a second to help somebody record something. So you just read those standings. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah, I'll go through those right now. The Pro Football Challenge, here we are on another Thursday. So a new week of games have officially gotten underway. I'm just going to take a look at the overall standings on the Pro Football Challenge. By the way, presented by the Liquor Depot in Staples. On our top 10 leaderboard, competing for the $250 grand prize at the end of the season, Steve Bentley has 148 total correct picks or points or whatever it is. John Hamburg won back with 147, and our very own Mike Melanich in the top 3 alone in the bronze medal position with 146 correct picks. And he is a full 2 ahead of the next group at 144. Jeremy Dukowitz, Wade Benson, Mark Johnson, and Paul Mattoon. Sadie Benson has 142, Ron Wanis 141, Kirk Wallace has 140, and that kind of rounds out your top 10 for the Pro Football Challenge on the overall board. In our building, obviously, Melanich leads the way, and then Zeke's in second, Kyle and CJ are tied for third, then there I am in fourth place in front of the Liquor Depot. You make your picks each and every single week. You are in the running for the grand prize, a $250 grand prize at the end of the season from the Liquor Depot in Staples. But if you haven't been playing all season long, it's totally fine, because there's weekly winners as well. The Liquor Depot in Staples giving away a $20 gift card each and every single week. And we are officially on to week 15 of the NFL season. Of course, the Vikings don't play until Monday Night Football with Chicago in town, a game you'll be able to listen to on the Superstation K106. But games get underway tonight with Thursday Night Football. One game tonight, the Los Angeles Rams of California, United States, are at the San Francisco 49ers. This is, by my estimation, probably the most difficult Thursday Night Football game to pick this season. And I say that knowing full well that my Thursday night picks have gone, I'm maybe 500 on my Thursday Night Football picks this year. So this is a difficult one. The Rams at the 49ers. I think the Rams are a better team. And when Los Angeles is clicking, they're just downright tough. But it's in San Francisco. And San Francisco just beat the doors off the Chicago Bears last weekend. And I just don't know what to think. I don't know if San Francisco is Chicago that bad? Probably. Is San Francisco have they found a little something here towards the end of the season? I guess I don't know. I don't know what that right answer is. I think I'm going with the Rams. My Thursday night pick tonight is the Rams. The Rams over San Francisco for Thursday Night Football tonight. CJ, now that you're back, really quickly, I'll rehash. This is the toughest Thursday night game of the year for me to pick. I think the Rams are better, but San Francisco just beat the brakes off of Chicago, and I don't know what that means. And the game is in San Francisco. So the NFC West has been weird. I'm going with the Rams because I think they're a better team. And I think they're just probably in a better spot. But what San Francisco just did this past weekend is enough to make me nervous. Although the Rams beat Buffalo in a crazy, Josh Allen probably cemented his MVP for the season in a loss, which might be the only time in NFL history that's happened. So I guess maybe the Rams are an easier pick than I thought.
I'll do you a briefer one since you explained everything pretty much. I'll go with the 49ers because the Rams played a gutsy, back and forth.
Yeah, that's fair.
Game, and the 49ers just blew out the Bears. So the 49ers are probably a little more rested, and just the emotional kind of win that they got against Buffalo. Everybody's talking about the Rams. They're scary. Now the 49ers have no running backs because they all have gotten hurt, all 5 of them. So that also might factor into it. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Okay. Make your picks, Pro Football Challenge, WDenaRadio.com. Get them done today because, Thursday starts the NFL weekend.
Exactly. Only 4 weekends left.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, most important game that needs to happen. The Buffalo Bills need to win this week.
They're at Detroit.
Yes. Yep. Detroit needs to lose.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I think I picked Buffalo.
Oh, I picked Buffalo.
I picked Buffalo to win that game.
Yeah.
There was a toss-up, obviously, and then we're probably going to look wrong because I think Detroit is wearing their blues with the black lion helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And those are sick.
Detroit going back to the block lettering was definitely a good choice for that.
And is it a letdown for the Bills after losing? Now they're on the road again. I don't know. I picked Buffalo though. Detroit's due to lose one. They've kind of gotten away with some here. Their defense is banged up. Anyway, that does our Pro Football Challenge update there, brought to you by the Liquor Depot in Staples. Corey, you want to wrap up the morning sports desk by talking about just a couple different Twins related things. So we could talk about some Carlos Correa news headlines, or we could talk about the Twins Rule 5 draft selection that they did yesterday. Which one you want to do first? Well, why don't you just get out the details, get this out of the way on the Rule 5 guy and the other guy that I don't know anything about these guys. I don't know how much they're going to weigh into the Twins' future. It's just of note because the Twins have made a couple moves here like everyone else has. So
really did something.
Let's get this out of the way. I don't mean any offense to them, but it's less interesting than the other conversations that are starting to exist around the Twins that I think we need to spend a little more time on. So go ahead and get this stuff out of the way first.
Okay, so the Twins made a Rule 5 draft selection. Now, for those who don't know, just a quick recap, the Rule 5 draft, how the Twins got Johan Santana, by the way, is basically to prevent teams from basically hoarding minor league players. There's a certain point where you have to add them to the 40-man roster, or they can be picked in this Rule 5 draft. And basically, it's a way for teams, if a prospect that's been in your system for a certain amount of years has not been on your 40-man roster, which means they could get called up to the big leagues, they're able to be plucked by other teams onto their 40-man rosters. Now, the caveat is you get them for $100,000, and they have to be on your big league roster for the entire season. You can't send them to AAA, and if you do, they go on waivers, and then they get offered back to their original team at half the salary. So, you can't just pick a player and then send them to the minors and stash them. You have to it's basically for guys to be like, I've been in the minors for like 4 years, and this team will call me up. Like, will somebody else give me a shot?
Yeah, it'd be stupid that that exists to get guys to not stash players. So we're not going to let anybody stash them. I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's just a quick thing of what it is. So it's not, like the last Twin, I think, to have gotten taken away in the Rule 5 draft was Akil Baddoo. He got picked by the Tigers, and right away it looked like a blunder, and then now it's just like he's nothing. But
right.
Like he's a 5th outfielder, and the Twins have plenty of 5th outfielders.
Plenty of them.
So the Twins, though, haven't made a Rule 5 pick since 2017, and that was for the 2018 season. Tyler Kinley was the reliever's name. He had an ERA of 24. He pitched in like 3 games, gave up 9 runs, like whatever. Like the Twins put him back on waivers, and he went back to Miami and
happily put him on waivers.
like, you know what, Miami, you could have him back. This was fun.
Whoops.
Whoopsies. But for the Twins, I think there's a couple of reasons why they take a Rule 5 draft selection this year. One, their payroll is projected. They want to be at about 130 million. And right now their current payroll is 142. So they got to figure that out. So which means that they're not signing anybody first. So this is a way to add to the team with a low-cost player and add to a bullpen. And by the way, the Twins don't typically really go big game hunting on the bullpen. They like to kind of find guys like this, the diamond in the roughs, the failed starters. You just find randos and kind of say, well, if only 1 inning we can get them to pitch max effort, maybe they'll be productive. That's kind of the philosophy of the Twins, because
like the ultimate end goal, right? Finding Johan Santana is an impossibility.
Right. And by the way, he started as a reliever for like 3 years. before they actually trusted him to get
about it.
And first year he was in the rotation. Oh, well, this guy's a Cy Young winner.
Who could have seen that coming besides everyone?
Everyone.
Cough, cough, cough. The same team, same thing, different pitcher 2 years later.
Anyway. Yeah, tell us how you really feel, Corey. The Twins got he was a starter last year in the Philadelphia Phillies farm system. His name is Emerson Castellano. I wasn't paying attention first, and I saw Twins take Phillies Castellano, and at first I thought we got Nick Castellanos. So
exciting.
Yeah, there's no deep drives into left field this time, or at least hopefully.
And then you realize that the Twins aren't going to pay for anybody, so why would they get that guy?
Right, exactly. Why would they get an aging
league average outfielder?
Right, exactly. Yeah, when they're a dime a dozen. Emerson Castellano. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's 23 years old. Will be 24 in the season, and he had he was the Phillies minor league pitcher of the year.
Woo!
They did not cover him. They didn't add him to the 40-man roster. They protected a different reliever instead. It allowed the Twins to take him. Basically, and again, this is pumped up a lot more because of the fact that the Twins just aren't doing anything. He's a guy that will be in the bullpen. The Twins mentioned he'll be in the bullpen because if you're going to hide a guy all season, you don't want to hide him in the bullpen or in the starting rotation, because if he stinks, then you got to cut bait on him, and you're going to stash him in the bullpen. It's why the Twins did it with Johan for the first year. Now the next 3 years is completely on them. But with Castellano, he's a nice little guy. He's a nice little pitcher. Can I say little? He's 6'3". He's taller than me. But he's a pitcher that is a righty, has 3 pitches: fastball, changeup, curveball. Mainly a fastball guy, mid to upper 90s. But the thing that
teach him the sweeper, and then look out. We got a bona fide 4-starter who won't make the playoff roster.
The Twins did say that they are going to tweak his pitch mix a little bit. They say that he does potentially have a future as a starter, but he will be in the bullpen kind of as a low leverage innings eater kind of guy. If you're down by 8 runs, bring him in to pitch a couple. Who cares? That kind of vibe. You're up by 8, down by 8. You throw him in the ball game, get him some innings. And then after the first year he's with the Twins, then the next year, then he can send him down, call him up, do whatever. It's just that first year. And with the Twins, you can stash a guy in the bullpen. You can carry 13 pitchers, 5 of them starters. So you have 8 bullpen arms, and he'll just kind of sit in the bottom of the hierarchy, and then you can kind of see what you have for the next year. His curveball is still a little bit of work in progress. But the biggest thing is that his ERA is around 4 in the minors between high A and double A, which isn't great. If you look at his fielding independent pitching, which is a way to kind of say here's what the results showed, but here's how he actually here's what he actually played. But if you pitch like this, it actually should go like this. So it's a way of just trying to tell how unlucky guys get. He had a FIP close to 3.5, which on an ERA scale is a nice clip for a starting pitcher. The real thing that makes him intriguing is his strikeouts. So his strikeout to walk ratio is about 5 to 4.5. So for every 5 strikeouts, he'll walk a guy. His strikeout rate between both levels of the minor leagues was about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. And that's with a walk rate that actually went down when he was in double A. When he was in double A, he only allowed 2 walks per 9 innings. So this is a guy that's got some control, has some swing and miss stuff, and the Twins are banking on, well, that guy did it as a starter. Now, if we put him in a smaller max effort role where he doesn't have to pitch 5 to 6 innings, he only just has to pitch 1 to 2. Can we get a little more productivity? Can we maybe get a mile or 2 up on the fastball? Will the stuff play a little bit more? He'll have to develop that 3rd pitch, maybe even a 4th one if he wants to be a starter. But if you just go fastball, changeup, maybe a curveball, that can play as a reliever. So this is a 2024 play because he has to be on the roster. He'll take up that last spot. It's weird for the Twins, who like to be flexible with the bullpen and like to basically call Jorge Alcala up to pitch 3 innings and then send him down the next day and call up a fresh arm. You lock yourself out of that position. But anyway, long-winded way of saying he's a nice little reliever. There's a chance this works out. It's a good risk to take, I think, looking at his underlying numbers, and we'll just kind of see if he works out. But the biggest thing is we're all in because this is the only thing the Twins have done, because God forbid they do something.
So that was a really, that was a really excellent sales pitch. I don't care.
Yeah, At the end of the day, this is a guy who's not going to pitch that much in 2024.
Any reason to care about this guy and quite possibly the entire organization in 2025?
Well, they might trade Carlos Correa, so there's that.
Okay, so actually that's a really good point. There are these rumors going around that maybe Carlos Correa is a guy because they have no money, and I should reiterate,
they do have money.
They refuse to spend money beyond where they're at. So to open up an imaginary amount of space in the checking account, Carlos Correa is a name who's come up as a possible trade option for the Twins. What's the relevancy of that? Is that something that could actually happen, or is this like if you're a restaurant owner, your restaurant is always for sale if somebody makes the right offer, or is this it just exists out in the ether because he's good and the Twins are bad and he would make more sense playing for the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers or just a nationally relevant team storyline wise?
Yeah, I mean, the way you put it with the restaurant being always for sale, I think is probably the best example that you could have, because what really added, I mean, there's always speculation with it when you're cutting payroll. But I think really what added fuel to the fire was when Derek Falvey was asked, he's like, well, we're always open for business and, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's kind of his way of saying, if you want to give us a Godfather offer, we'll listen. But I think people maybe read into that a little bit too much, because now Scott Boras has been on the record at the winter meetings basically going, guys, Carlos Correa is happy in Minnesota. Like, there's these people that are like, well, Carlos Correa is going to demand his way out if he sees that the Twins aren't doing anything. Like, Carlos Correa is a smart guy. He reads the room. He knows whatever. Like, it is what it is.
And if Boras is saying it, he's actually the most important voice in all of this, because Carlos isn't going to say anything. That dude is a business professional. Right. That guy doesn't open his mouth about anything. He lets his agent speak for him. And Boras is a guy who likes to be heard.
Right.
Boras is saying that stuff. That's one most important voice in this conversation.
If he said, like, Carlos loves it in Minnesota, but he'll do what's best, but, well, baseball's a business, and
yes,
he's happy in Minnesota. He doesn't want to move. Like, and that's the biggest thing. And I think the Twins will listen to offers. And I think there was a thought maybe when the Yankees lost Soto, do the Yankees like panic and go get another superstar and trade for Correa? Now they just signed a bunch of money to another starting pitcher. So I think they're good. I think they've gotten a big enough free agent to calm the fan base down a little bit, to at least have them from burning down Yankee Stadium. Yeah. But so I think that's going to go away for a little bit, but the thing is, it's not just that trading Carlos Correa would get you to that number. It's that theoretically you would have room to then maybe sign a free agent or two, not a high profile ones, but you could like add a Carlos Santana like player. You could add like a 1 year, Michael A. Taylor type of guy, whatever. But here's my biggest counterpoint to all of this. And this is what makes the Carlos Correa stuff streamlined for me. A competent franchise would not trade Carlos Correa. I think there's a lot of armchair GMs that go, yeah, but then the salary, and now you kind of clear yourself up. And yeah, but you have Carlos Correa. And I know the plantar fasciitis stuff happened. I know it did. But the first half of that season, that guy was everything you paid for. Everything you paid for.
You go back the year before, and it was a weird year again because of the plantar
But in the playoffs.
But in the playoffs, that guy performed expertly.
That guy was, and by the way, when he came back in the last week of the season, it didn't matter because the rest of the team was sinking. But Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa were mashing. They were producing. It wasn't their fault that they were hitting. Carlos Correa was hitting a double. It wasn't his fault that everybody else struck out after him. Like that guy, it wasn't his fault that Correa got a double and Miranda grounded into a ground ball that rolled over to third base. Like that's whatever. That is, the point is you win in baseball with blue chip players. And say what you want about Byron Buxton. We can exclude him for this. You have Carlos Correa. You have Royce Lewis. You have some of these guys that are good. You have prospects like Emmanuel Rodriguez, who are likely going to see the big league action in 2025. You have Luke Keeschel, who's a prospect the Twins really like coming out of Florida State. That's probably going to make the big league roster. You have reinforcements coming to make this roster better. And people say, well, shouldn't that be the case to trade Carlos Correa? No, because he's one of the top 5 shortstops in baseball. That is a blue chip player at a blue chip position. And I understand salary works this way, salary works that way, whatever. You can find ways to trim them around the margins, but you need a guy like Carlos Correa. And the fact that the Twins, this was the highest profile free agent signing in Twins history. And to trade him 2 years later, it would just be a slap in the face to what this thing is. It's the same thing when people said, well, when Correa was here with the Twins on that 1-year deal, well, maybe they just trade him and get some value while they can because he'll leave in free agency. But then you're guaranteeing the fact that he'll never come back. And it also sends a message to other free agents. I think what this message would send is the Twins invested in Carlos Correa and they want to keep him around. Now, if somebody wants to give you like the top 5 prospect, like a top 1 prospect in baseball, okay, well, I mean, like, nobody's not for sale. And I think that's what the Twins are saying. We'll talk. But just because you're talking about a trade doesn't mean what's happening. In the NBA, they talk about trades all the time. It doesn't mean a trade's imminent. You know what I mean?
So I just to remove, and I agree with everything, by the way. I don't want to reiterate your point, but to remove some of the emotion from this. Do players like this get traded? Yes, of course they do. But they get traded from teams who are tanking.
Right.
And the Twins are not in tanking mode. They're in a no spending mode, which doesn't jive with no tanking. Like those two things don't jive, and that's why a lot of us get frustrated. But just because they're not spending doesn't mean they think they're tanking.
Just because ownership isn't spending doesn't mean the front office doesn't think this is a team that can win.
If you're Oakland and are getting rid of all of your guys to go elsewhere, that's because you're trying to offload and make your team more like available to sell, kind of a thing. That's not what the Twins are doing. And when you think you have a roster that can win, and they do, they've been very clear about this from coaching staff all the way on up to ownership and beyond. I guess there's beyond, but you know what I mean? They think this team can win. And they think this team can win in part because Carlos Correa is on the team. If they were tanking, Carlos Correa is long gone.
Right.
They're not tanking. They think they can win. He needs to be in this roster. And oh, by the way, you removed the last 5 weeks of the season, and that Twins team was running away with the division until it got just so catastrophically weird. All that was left to do was flush,
Right, exactly. And by the way, if Joe Ryan doesn't get hurt, I know there's a lot of ifs, but if Joe Ryan doesn't get hurt, the Twins make the playoffs. They'll win enough games to make the playoffs.
So I have can I go down speculation highway here a little bit?
Yeah, why not? Let's wrap it up with this.
The question that comes from this is, and I believe you and believe that Carlos Correa is not a thing, barring a Godfather offer. Nothing is ever off the table, but barring something pretty impeccable, Carlos Correa is a Twin for the foreseeable future.
By the way, it should be mentioned, he has a full no trade clause.
Correct. So we mentioned Scott Boras also. Scott Boras likes to talk. He has another pretty big client on this roster who is being rumored to be moving positions over to second base. And Royce Lewis and Scott Boras have been pretty adamant in the recent past, about Royce being a shortstop. They didn't want him in the outfield. They didn't want him in center field. Second base, when they moved him there at the end of the year, was weird. Remember, that was weird. And the Twins have been pretty adamant that he is probably the second baseman of the future, which moves Brooks Lee over to third, blah, blah, blah. Is some of this fodder over Carlos Correa actually maybe hiding conversations that, like, is Royce going to be unhappy? Is Royce actually a guy who could be on a block to be traded somewhere because he thinks he's a shortstop?
Well, I think the thing about Royce Lewis being a shortstop, I think that was always kind of I think we always kind of knew he was going to move off that position. I think once he kind of got to the high minors, and especially with the knee injuries, I think getting him out of shortstop, I think, was the play. But yeah, I mean, when he moved from center field, when they put him in center field for a few games, I think that was a Scott Boras. That was his agent stepping in, because Royce is like a 21-year-old kid who's like, play me anywhere, coach, I'll go anywhere. And this is the agent going, I'm looking out for your long-term future here. Like, you're not getting hurt again playing center, playing your not natural position. But I think overall, I think Royce Lewis was unhappy about being asked to play second base in the middle of the season. And I think it's that last part, really. I think he's like, You want me like in the middle of a playoff push when I'm struggling and I'm trying to figure things out at the plate. You want me to change positions on top of that. And I agree with that. I agreed with Royce at the time. Everybody got kind of mad at him. I agree with them. Like, guys, I got a lot going on. Like, don't make me like change positions right now. Like Brooks Lee should move to second base. And he didn't say that, but I said that. Like, move Brooks Lee to second base for now, because you can give Royce a whole offseason. And people say, like, there's a lot of people listening go, it's just third to second base. It's not that big of a deal. And it really isn't. But it is at a major league level when the games are important and you need to win. If it's amateur ball and somebody looks at the third baseman and goes, hey, play second base this inning, a guy's not throwing a tantrum. But when you're a major leaguer and you're making a lot of money and you don't want to get hurt or make a screw up playing in a position you're not comfortable with because there's money riding on all this, I get it. And so I think Royce Lewis was open. I think is open, and reading this article from The Athletic, he talked a little bit about the transition. He's working to become a second baseman, like you said. I think he's okay with it because they gave him time to prepare. I think it was the fact of on a whim, he was struggling and because he should have moved to second base, because watching him make some throws from third, it's not that he can't do them, but Carlos Santana, I think, covered up for a lot of throws that maybe weren't ideal.
You can be a little loose with your throws at second. You can't at third.
Right. And we saw that with Jorge Polanco, by the way. Great second baseman. He tried to play at third, and it was a disaster. Like, I mean,
it's a perfect example. He started at shortstop, played a little third, and then he found this lovely little niche. And by the way, for a guy like Royce, there's precedent for guys to make a whole bunch of money playing second base.
Mm-hmm.
Alfonso Soriano, Robinson Cano, Chase Utley. You mentioned Polanco. Like, you can be a power hitting second baseman and succeed in this league. All those other guys, well, Soriano was right-handed, I guess, but like, you know, there's a little mix of what kind of power hitter you are from what side of the plate.
Right.
But Royce, if his future is
what's in baseball hitting, and if you let him play second base and just hit,
there's a future for that. You know, from Boris's perspective, from his agent's perspective, from his long-term perspective.
Second to third base doesn't, like, the money pool doesn't, it's not that.
And you don't like to talk guys out of a Twins uniform. And I certainly don't want Royce Lewis out of a Twins uniform yet. I don't think, depending on how healthy that guy's going to be or not be. But like, there's money to be made in his career playing second base.
Yes, that is a possibility. And from the Twins' perspective, Royce Lewis compared to Brooks Lee is a much better defender. He's a lot more polished. Not only because he's just played more baseball. Brooks Lee played college ball. He played minor leagues. Royce Lewis came right out of high school. He had the COVID season get wiped away. He was hurt, like, in the minors. Like, he just didn't have the amount of game reps that Brooks Lee's had. And Brooks Lee's played them at shortstop in college, and his dad's a college coach. Like, he's a much better fit at third base compared to.
He's just tighter defensively. He's just a better infielder for that position. That it's really simple. That's not like an offensive thing to say.
Right, exactly. And you know what? Like, that's fine. And I think as long as you have Carlos Correa at shortstop, I think that's the biggest piece in that puzzle. And it makes kind of all this seem secondary, because otherwise we'd fight about who's a better shortstop. And Brooks Lee, I think, could be a big league shortstop, but not like a high-end big league shortstop, if that makes sense. Like, he could play it, but maybe not at obviously not at the level Carlos Correa can, because Carlos Correa is like one of one at that position. But it's just a little bit of like having that guy at the position. All of a sudden now you can spread guys out to where, again, who cares? Your glove at second base is important, but it's less important than it is at third base and shortstop and all of that. And it can let Royce Lewis hit, because Brooks Lee has the higher floor as a hitter, but Royce Lewis obviously has a much higher ceiling. And let Brooks Lee be a constant at third base and let Royce Lewis kind of reach that ceiling of hitting by not having to worry as much defensively, I think is a big boost. I know Carlos Correa would help him, but there's just only so much you can do. And even watching them play together, there was still some times where Royce Lewis maybe would make a mistake and kind of whatever. And so I think that all works out. And here's the other thing. This is the last thing, and then I'll wrap up. The Twins, like you said, are not tanking. They're not rebuilding. They're not reloading. We talked about at the end of the year, like, do they make a significant roster shakeup, because of the way they collapsed? And I think now that the stench of those last 5 weeks is gone, this is a team that's probably going to run most of it back. And you know what? It's not the most ideal situation in the world. This roster isn't perfect, but I was looking at the Twins bullpen writing a piece about Castellano. This bullpen's not going to be bad. It's not going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be the top 5 in baseball, but there's talent there. You look at the starting rotation, that's going to be deep with Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan. You have for now Chris Paddock, although maybe he's a guy you trade because you have depth. You have Simeon Woods Richardson. You have David Festa. You have Zebulon out there. And then you have a couple other guys that look to make their big league debut from the minors as well. Like this, and of course with the lineup, you have Matt Wallner, who's coming off kind of an establishing year. You have Royce Lewis. You have Brooks Lee. You have Carlos Correa. You have Bart. Like this is you got to figure out first base. But this is a team that in an AL Central, that's going to be weird. It's going to be better, but it's still going to be weird. There's no reason to think the Twins can't compete. And if you look at places like Fangraphs and some of these other spots, right now, as is, they have the Twins projected to be the most productive team in the division this year. So this is still a talented team, which is why you don't just trade Carlos Correa to trade him.
I think when you remove some of this ownership stuff and the frustration that exists in the front office or from the front office, which is very real, I am not discounting that and how important. I think you can, depending on the scenario, you can overrate or underrate how important that stuff is. It's important. This stuff is really important. Who's the owner? Who's willing to pay? Who's not willing to? Whatever. Remove that from the scenario. What happened over the last 5 or 6 weeks of the baseball season for the Minnesota Twins, while miserable to experience and frustrating, is probably pretty flukish.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not willing to remove the ownership frustration, the money frustration. And it exists. It's like on a Monday when you come back from watching your football team and you go, well, if you don't turn the ball over 4 times, you win that game. Yeah, but you did. You did turn the ball over 4 times. That's why you lost. They did lose basically for 6 weeks straight. That is real. That's a part of
their, a lot self-inflicted.
It's a part of their DNA. But it's like a 29-week season. And for 20 of them, they were really the best. Like they were arguably one of the best teams in baseball for a long time, for certain the best team in the division. And then it just got wonky. So there is some, like, once you can remove that sadness and how it ended, I think probably they're going to be, why can't this team win 89 games?
Right. And with 3 wild card spots, that can get you in the playoffs.
They can win this division.
Mm-hmm. It's in play.
It's in play. It's also in play that they won't come in last because Chicago exists, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's also in play that the floor falls underneath from them. That's also in play.
I mean, we're talking about a 3rd year of Correa injuries in a row, another year of Royce not being healthy, almost a full decade of Buxton not being able to stay healthy. Like, if that happens, it's donezo, and we're going to know very early.
Right. We'll find out. There's your Twins update. We'll see you back in March. This has been the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday, the 12th of December.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDCRadio.com.